So kind of a review of all of our conversions here. This first one, to get from 8.3 meters to centimeters. If you forgot your chart, it looks something like this. So meters to centimeters, we're moving 2 spots to the right, so my decimal point moves 2 spots to the right, 830 centimeters. That one wasn't so bad. The next one, though, inches squared to feet squared, are we going to just divide by 12? No, why not? It's squared. It's not inches and feet, it's square inches and square feet. So what that means is, it's not just a foot becoming an inch, it's 1 foot by 1 foot, so that is 12 inches by 12 inches, or 144 square inches in 1 square foot. So this has to be divided by 144 instead of 12. 3,456 divided by 144 is 24 square feet. How many of you had that one right? Anybody not understand where that 24 comes from? Okay. So then next, 243 cubic feet into cubic yards. How many feet are in a yard? 3. But this isn't, of course, feet and yards. It's cubic feet and cubic yards, which means it's 1 yard by 1 yard by 1 yard, or 3 by 3 by 3, which would be 27 cubic feet in 1 cubic yard. So this is divided or multiplied?
Multiplied.
We're going from a small unit to a large unit. The unit's getting larger, so the number has to get smaller. So we're going to divide by 27, which will be 9 cubic yards. This next one's always a little bit confusing. 87,120 square feet going into acres. People always ask, well, where's the square unit on the acres? An acre is defined to be a square unit. Remember, 1 acre is defined to be 43,560 square feet. So it doesn't need to be squared on the acres, because acres are a square unit. It is a unit of area in itself. So what do I do to get from square feet into acres? First of all, multiply or divide. We're going to divide because we're getting to a bigger unit by 43,560, which is going to give us 2 acres. Next, 7,300 centimeters squared into meters squared. Centimeters to meters is 2 spots to the left. What do I do to my decimal point?
2 spots to the left.
I go 4 spots to the left. Why is it 4 spots instead of 2? Because it is squared, and because it's squared, we double it. 2 spots for every spot on the chart. And then next down here, 0.085 centimeters cubed into millimeters cubed. Centimeters to millimeters is 1 spot on the chart, but it's cubed, so that means we go 3 decimal places for every spot on the chart. So 1 spot on the chart is 3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3 is 85 millimeters cubed. Any questions? So if I have things like 7 cubic feet, how do I get that into cubic inches? Do you remember what the conversion is? Or if you don't remember it, do you remember how to find the conversion? Remember 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. Which is going to be 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. 12 by 12 by 12 is 1,728 cubic inches in 1 cubic foot. So this is going to be 7 times 1728. $12,096 cubic inches. How about this? How do we add those? Do you remember? We start on the right, work our way back to the left. 9 inches plus 11 inches is 20 inches, which is 1 foot and 8 inches. Keep the 8, carry the 1 foot. 1 and 7 is 8, plus 5 is 13 feet. Or we could have 8 feet 2 inches minus 5 feet 10 inches. So we go to subtract. Again, 2 minus 10 can't be done, so we borrow. This is 7 feet. This becomes 14 because we borrowed 12 inches. So 14 minus 10 is 4 inches. 7 minus 5 is 2 feet. So 5 feet, 6 and 5/8 inches times 6. We got to do the 6 and 5/8 times 6, which is going to give us, anybody? So 6 times 8 is 48, plus 5 is 53/8, times 6 over 1. We can cross cancel the 8 and 6, divided by 2 to give me 3 and 4. This is 159 over 4, which is 39 3/4. So 39 3/4 inches, we can get 3 feet out of that, which would be 36 inches. So there's 3 3/4 inches left. Carry the 3 feet. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 3 is 33 feet. So 33 feet, 3 3/4 inches. Not so bad? Oh, let's see here. Let's do a 5 foot 6 inches. Let's see here. Actually, let's go 5 foot 8 inches divided by 4. So 4 goes into 5. That's 1 feet. It's 4 feet that we've used up with 1 foot left over. That 1 foot's 12 inches. Bring down the 8 is 20 inches. And divide by 4 is 5 inches. So 5 feet 8 inches cut into 4 equal pieces is 1 foot 5 inches each. Any questions? We are going to go ahead and start the new material. So if you just want to set it off to the side for a minute, you can finish her up in a little bit. Today what we're going to talk about is we're moving on to the next set of measurements. We've talked about linear measurements, and we use that to define areas and volumes as well. Thank you. So today we're going to move on now to units of capacity, which are similar to our units of volume, but they're defined capacities. And again, we're going to start in the standard system. In the standard system, one of the largest units we're going to talk about is the gallon. A gallon actually was originally defined as the size of a hat, believe it or not. And it became a container because most people wore a hat, so they used that to measure out a gallon. Smaller than a gallon, we have, what's our next smallest unit? A quart. How many quarts are in a gallon? 4. The word quart actually comes from the word quarter. It was a quarter gallon, shortened into a quart. So it makes sense that there would be 4 of them in a gallon. Smaller than a quart, we have a pint. How many pints in a quart? 2 pints in a quart. Next we have a pint. Now I should note here on a side note, quart and pint. Quart is abbreviated QT, pint is PT, depending on your type font. They can be kind of similar, so be careful. Smaller than a pint, we have, well, there's one in between there. The half used to be called a half pint or a cup. There's 2 cups. So the next one down is fluid ounces. A cup, does anybody know how many fluid ounces are in a cup? 8 fluid ounces in a cup. Very good. 8 fluid ounces in a cup, 16 fluid ounces in a pint. Some people mistakenly call that a fluid pound. It's not true. Believe it or not, I think they define 8 fluid ounces in a fluid pound, which doesn't make any sense to me. But oh well. Now, a fluid ounce is not a unit of weight. It is a unit of volume. It's actually defined to be the volume of 1 ounce of pure water, of distilled water. So if you're looking at water, a fluid ounce and an ounce are the same. But for anything else, it's not. Smaller than a fluid ounce. We have the tablespoon. Anybody know how many tablespoons are in a fluid ounce? There are 2 tablespoons in a fluid ounce, or 16 tablespoons in a cup. Smaller than a tablespoon, we have a teaspoon. Anybody know how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon? 3. Little side note here, a little word of warning. Tablespoon and teaspoon are often abbreviated each with just a T, with a capital T for tablespoon and a little t for teaspoon. Teaspoon is also sometimes abbreviated TSP with a small t. Tablespoon is sometimes capital TSP. And occasionally tablespoon is abbreviated small tBSP. So be very careful. If you see a capital T, that always means tablespoon. A small t, unless it has a B in there, it usually means teaspoon. Now, these next few are just for fun. You don't need to write these down if you don't want to. I just throw them out there to prove that these units do exist, because you've heard of them. Smaller than a teaspoon. I mean, a tablespoon was actually the spoon they used to eat their food with. A teaspoon was what they used to measure the sugar that they put into their tea. Smaller than a teaspoon, there was a dash. A dash was literally from a spice shaker, and it was if you took it and just tipped it once, how much would come out was a dash. There are 2 dashes in a teaspoon. Smaller than a dash, there are 3 pinches in a dash. Again, I won't quiz you on these. Smaller than a pinch, there are 2 smidgens. Now, a pinch was literally you tuck your fingers in and you pinched a powdered substance, and whatever you got between your fingers was a pinch. A smidgen, now this one's a little nasty, I think. You put your finger in there, whatever stuck to your finger was a smidgen. So the person with sweaty fingers had big smidgens, I guess. Yeah. Everyone wants to think of the chef having sweaty fingers, right? There are other units out there that are bigger. Bigger than a gallon, of course, we have a barrel. Does anybody know how big a barrel is? How many gallons are in a barrel? A little bit larger than that. It's actually 31.5. You're actually the first group that hasn't said 55. 55 is actually a drum. 55 gallons in a drum. Anybody know how many gallons are in a bushel? A bushel is 8 gallons. I'm going to double check that one just to make sure. I always mix up the gallon, the peck and the bushel. Yep, I'm right. How about a peck? Anybody ever heard of a peck before? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Yeah. 1 peck is actually 2 gallons. If you're picking strawberries, I think they still sell a peck of strawberries. That's what your standard crate of strawberries holds, is a peck. They're about 2 gallons. So anyway, those are our units. Now these are units of capacity, which is very closely related with volume. Of course, 1 gallon can be related to cubic inches. I'm going to put approximate, so it's not really an equal sign. It's approximately equal to 231 cubic inches. It's not quite exact. Now, a cubic foot is actually bigger than a gallon. Picture a 5-gallon bucket. Do you think that's bigger or smaller than a cubic foot? We've talked about this before. It's actually smaller, quite a bit smaller. 1 cubic foot, do you remember from last week? 7.48 gallons. The only reason I bring, and again, that is also approximate. In fact, most of the time, if I'm doing calculations, like manure pit calculations and stuff like that, or swimming pool calculations, I will almost always use 7.5 gallons, just to ease it up. In fact, I had to do this one a couple of different times this summer for friends. If you have a swimming pool, this one's always kind of fascinating people. Let's say the swimming pool is 16 feet across and 4 feet high. Or this water level is 4 feet high. How many gallons are in that? Well, we got to find the area of the circle that is the bottom of this thing. That circle has an 8-foot radius. So the area of that circle is pi, or I'm going to use 3.14 times 8 squared, which is about 200.96. We're just going to call it 201 square feet. Times, for volume, we're going to take that 201 square feet times the 4 feet of height. This is about 804 cubic feet. How many gallons of water are in that? Well, that's 804 cubic feet over 1 times, we're going to put cubic feet on bottom. There's 1 cubic foot is 7.5 gallons, or 7.48, however you want to do it. Just probably put 804. Normally what I would do is I'd round it down to 800 and I'd use the 7.5. We'll use the 7.5 anyway. Get 6,030 gallons of water. So even that small pool, that 16-foot diameter, 4-foot deep pool, has 6,000 gallons of water in it. Okay, on to the metric system. In the metric system, just like with length, we have only one unit of capacity, and that is the liter. It is sometimes spelled like this, TRE, that's the metric spelling, or the European spelling, and it is starting to find its way over here. I was always taught that liter was abbreviated with a capital L. That's because when I was in school, the computers were just catching on. The type fonts were limited, and on most keyboards, on most type fonts, a 1 and a small lowercase l were almost indistinguishable. In fact, some of the older typewriters before my time didn't even have a 1 key on them. They just used a small l. So we used a capital L so that if you had something like this, you didn't have to wonder, is that 91 or is that 9 liters? If you use a capital L, you know that that's 9 liters. So anyway, just like with our meters, with our length, we have deciliters, centiliters, and milliliters. And we can keep going. We could have microliters. We have decaliters, hectoliters, and kiloliters. And we can keep going to have megaliters. Now, with the modern type fonts, by the way, the L and the 1 are distinguished, so it is okay to use a small L to abbreviate liters now. You're just going to see me use the capital because that's what I'm used to. So if I need to convert in our metric system, let's say I have 0.073 liters, and I want to convert that into milliliters. Just like with our lengths, 1, 2, 3 steps to the right on the chart from liters to milliliters. Decimal point goes 1, 2, 3. 73 milliliters. Even though this is a unit of volume, it's still 1 decimal place for 1 step on the chart. Though we'd mentioned before that the metric system was designed. It was a designed system of measurement. It was designed to be more convenient, to overcome most of the weaknesses of the standard system. One of the weaknesses in the standard system is what we just talked about up here, that a gallon is approximately 231 cubic inches and approximately 7.48 gallons in a cubic foot. And again, that's rounded depending on which textbook you look at, it's rounded differently. We use 7.5 gallons per cubic foot down here. The metric system was designed to avoid that approximate conversion. 1 milliliter was designed and defined to be 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. In other words, 1 milliliter equals 1 cubic centimeter. So if I have a car whose cylinder has a 6 centimeter stroke and has the area of the head of the piston is, what do I want to put in here? I want to keep it reasonable. Let's say it's 32 centimeters squared. So, the volume of this, the displacement of a cylinder is just a volume. It's going to be the area of the piston head times the distance that it moves. So 32 centimeters squared times 6 centimeters. What is that, 192 centimeters cubed? Let's say it's a 6-cylinder engine, so times 6 cylinders is going to give us what? This is going to be way small, but that's okay. 1152 centimeters cubed. That's the total displacement of that engine. How many milliliters is that? 1 milliliter is 1 centimeter cubed. That's 1152 centimeters cubed is 1152 milliliters. Converted to liters. Well, liters is 3 spots to the left on the chart. That's a 1.1, we'll call it a 1.15 liter engine. So that one's pretty tiny. The 6 centimeter stroke length is reasonable, but it should have been more like a 60 centimeter squared area. Any questions? So that's one of the strengths of the metric system, is the fact that there is a very quick conversion between volume and capacity. If you know the dimensions, you can very quickly find the volume, or you can find the capacity. So anyway, let's do a couple of examples. I know we did these, I think last week we did some examples similar to this. Let's take a tank that is approximately 36 inches by 16 inches by 6 inches. Its volume, of course, is going to be 36 times 16 times 6, which is 3456. That is in cubic inches. So how many gallons is that going to be? Well, 3456 cubic inches over 1 cubic inches on bottom, gallons on top. 1 gallon is 231 cubic inches. So cubic inches cancel out. I got 3456 gallons over 231. Should be about 14.96, something like that. 14.96 gallons. Whereas in the metric system, let's say that this is 0.8 meters. This is 40 centimeters, and this here we'll call 15 centimeters. First thing I have to do is make sure all of my dimensions are in the same unit. So this is going to become 80 centimeters. So my volume, 80 times 40 times 15 is going to be, what, 48,000 centimeters cubed. Let me double check that. Yep, 48,000. So now once we're there, that's 48,000 centimeters cubed is 48,000 milliliters. Moving my decimal 3 spots makes that 48 liters. So it's a 48 liter tank. We will look here in a few days actually at the conversion between metric and standard. Which of these tanks is bigger is the question. 1 gallon holds 3.785 liters. So if I take that 14.96 gallons over 1, put gallons on bottom, 3.785 liters on top. So the gallons cancel out. I am doing 14.96 times 3.785. That's 56.6 liters. So that 15-gallon tank is still quite a bit bigger than the 48-liter tank. That 48-liter tank, if I wanted to convert backwards, is only 12 and 3/4 gallons. Okay, out of your packet. Page 238 in that packet, 43 through 50. Page 265 in the packet, numbers 41 through 48. And while you were working on the quiz, I passed out the answer sheet, at least for the odd-numbered problems in the packet, so you can check those. With that, I'll let you out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. If you're still at the quiz, make sure you finish it up or make arrangements with me to get more time on it.
These last two are here.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going this way.
Down here or up here?
Okay.
Okay, so square feet. So it's going to be 12 inches by 12 inches, which is 144.
4, right?
Yep. So it's going to be times 144. So it'll be 32 times 144.
Yeah, but so I did this wrong. This is 12 times 12 is 144. Then you divide it here, right?
Yep, that should be right. That looks about right.
What about this? I'm supposed to get a large number here, right? Or no?
40 acres, yeah, that's supposed to be huge.
Okay.
Yep.
So then that would be 144 times. That sheet here. So then this one says 0.6 mile equals, if 1 mile equals 5,280 feet.
Yep.
I just times that by 0.6.
What are you looking at? Oh yeah, 0.6 times that. Yep, should be 3,000 something.